Welcome to this week's Wednesday Waffle. It's a little down this week, but I'm going to have a waffle about an old friend who passed away on Sunday after an illness. I knew Dave from 1981. Yeah, I met him during my RAF service. In fact, he was our next door neighbours. We lost contact, and only about 18 months, 2 years ago, did we bump into each other again. But like all service friendships, it was as if it had been yesterday or 5 minutes ago. And we never actually physically met up this time because we were separated by distance, but we were chatting on Facebook, etc. And the banter was good until very recently. But rather than be all morbid and sad about it, I'm going to share some little anecdotes from our long friendship. And how did we meet? Well, we met because they were our next door neighbours, but the real meeting came when Dave was outside cleaning his car and talking about his pride and joy, which was not his current car, which was bought quickly after his previous car, a Lotus, had caught on fire and melted. Lindsay couldn't stop laughing. Yeah, the Lotus had caught on fire and melted, and Lindsay thought this was hilarious. And luckily, Dave and Mary thought that Lindsay was hilarious. Anyway, another instance from our time together, our friendship, was a couple of years later, or maybe a year or so later, if even that. A particularly cold winter. Power was out, and because we were in ultra-modern married quarters, all we had was electric, and there was none of that. But we had a not allowed in married quarters portable heater. So we spent a couple of winter evenings huddled around that for heat and little else for heat. The quarters were diabolical, but it's the kind of thing that bonds a friendship. One day, David left for work. He was aircrew and had gone off quickly in the car to make a flight. What he hadn't noticed on his way out, but Mary did shortly afterwards, that his bike was missing. Dave had a Honda 250, I believe. It might have been the 400, I'm not sure. For playing on, and it had been removed in the night. Luckily, it was found round the corner, missing a few parts. It had obviously been stolen for the parts, and it was quickly back on the road again. But the main memories both Lindsay and I have of David and his ex-wife Mary were their maniac cats and their daft dog. Why maniac cats? Well, they had a number of them, but two of them in particular had a habit of sitting at the cat flap, one either side, and battering hell out of each other via the cat flap. Or one of them would settle down across the cat flap, denying the other cats access to the house. Another instance with the cats, one of them brought in a seagull. I missed that event, thankfully, but Lindsay and Mary both said they didn't know that a seagull could produce so much waste, shall we say. I think they survived, including the cat. They had a dog, an Afghan hound. Sasha was his name. And although he was a dog and liked to chase a ball as well as any dog, we honestly believe that Sasha thought he was a cat. Well, he had been brought up with 2 or 3 cats at least, and behaved quite often just like a cat. At work, Dave had been, like me, an apprentice, a dual trader, air comms, air radar, and he had taken the decision to move on and become aircrew and a flight engineer. He went to the dark side. But he had been a comms man and a radar man, and he'd worked comms on Nimrod, which is particularly relevant with the next comment. When they changed from Mark 1 to Mark 2 Nimrod, one of the antennas changed use. It used to be, they had done a modification which took out the wiring for a switch, but they left the switch in place rather than have to do an expensive modification of a control unit, including lighting, etc. So the switch was there, but you could click it away and do nothing. And it did nothing. Anyway, one day, yours truly gets called out to an aircraft which is on turnaround. Now, Dave is the engineer from the landing aircraft and has a fault for us. The fault is that there is no transmit VHF2 from the upper antenna. Turn round, the aircraft was going flying again, different crew, but Dave was there to make sure everything was hunky-dory for them coming on before he left, and the oncoming engineer came to take over. So he walked to the front of the aircraft away from other people, and I said, Dave, do you want to rethink this snag? He said, well, the co-pilot says that's what's happening. And I said, so he's working okay on lower antenna, but he flicks that switch and it stops transmitting. That's what he says. I said, Dave, do you want to have a think of it? We'll do a test, we'll check it out, but have a think. Don't raise the card. No, he went ahead and raised the card, which he was right to do. He'd had a fault reported for an aircraft he was responsible for, and he did so. So he raised the card, we no fault found did it, and when we got home that night, I had a good laugh at him. Why? Well, I told you, that switch no longer did anything. It couldn't have gone to no transmit. What we suspect was happening in the heat of the moment, the pilot was either forgetting to press the PTT or he had his microphone switched off. However, the aircraft went flying and there was no problem with it. So we had a good laugh about that, which is more than could be said about others, but we were good friends. I could go on and on and on. But the cat's here, our manic cat, and she is going to meow and ring a bell as long as I'm on here. As I say, I could go on and talk lots about Dave, but Dave is gone. Rest in peace, old friend, and one day we'll meet again. We'll pull up some sandbags and have a good old chinwag. Bye for now.